Hello and welcome to MOTORYAP episode 2. It has not been long since the first one, but I really wanted to do another one because I really enjoyed the first one, so here we are. Hope you're sitting comfortably. We have a decent, interesting few things that I would like to discuss. I have a succulent, creamy pint of Guinness and a cozy studio in Sheffield, so I am feeling very comfortable and ready to get into it. I want to dive straight in. It's been a busy week for the automotive industry, particularly in the UK, but I want to start out in Germany because there's a new Mercedes S-Class and it looks lovely. You wouldn't have thought it, but over 50% of this new model is new. Well, there's less than 50% of parts that are actually being carried over from the previous model. And there are so many lovely details. Obviously, the S-Class is just the epitome of luxury and tech and gives a great insight into what technology could be on your entry-level passenger cars within the next decade. I mean, the design itself is just fantastic. It's a nice refinement of what we've come to know the S-Class as. But one interesting engineering development that I want to discuss is the new crankshaft. Now, usually, an S-Class will have a cross-plane crankshaft. It'll literally, from the side, look like it is a plus shape. Now, the benefit to that is that it has a really smooth drive. But for this new one, they're actually switching to having a flat plane crankshaft, which you tend to see more in sports cars. Now, the benefit of the benefit of a flat plane crankshaft is the fact that you can much more easily control the power when the pistons are firing and things. So often you see flat plane crankshafts on sports cars and race cars and that sort of thing. And you will see cross planes on things that want smooth power rather than quick power. So why the hell would an S-Class switch to using a flat plane crankshaft? Well, essentially it means that Mercedes can better control how much fuel is being used and how hard the pistons are working and how much power that turns out to be. So essentially it's just more efficient, and because of Euro 7 regulations and things, they have to put that first. That's essentially the main reason, but then you're probably thinking, well, Sachin, surely then the new S-Class will have nowhere near a smoother ride. And I would ordinarily agree with you, but it is Mercedes that we're talking about, so I am confident that this car will just glide like a magic carpet and it will be fantastic. It's quite curious seeing some of the different ways that manufacturers try to reduce their emissions of their cars. Now, I love the S-Class. I always have for a while. It was so Sachin, what's your dream car? I would say the S-Class. But I think it should be an SUV. Now, the S-Class has pioneered the saloon space for years. It is the definition of luxury. It is ridiculously comfortable. It drives well, it's got awesome tech, but so much of the luxury saloon market nowadays has switched to having an SUV. I believe that the S-Class is excellent and perfect in every single way, except for the fact that it doesn't appeal to a lot of the people it's trying to advertise to because it's not an SUV. People who know me know my opinions on SUVs. I generally prefer saloons. There are some SUVs I love. I love what Land Rover and Range Rover do, but generally I'm more of a fan of saloons and smaller cars. Thinking specifically from a business standpoint, I think the S-Class should be an SUV now. Now, there is the GLS, and of course GL is they're big models. And there's the GLS, so it's the gone large S-Class. I have no clue what GL stands for, I've just made that up. The GLS is nowhere near as synonymous with peak automotive luxury like the S-Class is. In fact, no car on the planet is as synonymous with peak automotive luxury as the S-Class. That name carries a weight. So maybe the GLS should be renamed to the S-Class SUV. Now, bear in mind that the GLS is going to receive an update, and it's apparently going to be quite a hefty update, but they're not releasing a brand new model like how they have with the S-Class. So maybe Merc should start putting more of their resources into the big boy rather than the sleek saloon. What do you think? Again, I would prefer from a personal standpoint. I love the S-Class as it is, and I love that the new one has a light-up Mercedes emblem on the front. It is just gorgeous in every conceivable regard. But the market likes SUVs nowadays. So what are you going to do? Merc have made their choice. They're sticking with putting more resources into the saloon than the SUV, but we'll see how that goes. It's important to bear in mind that because luxury saloon buyers are looking to go for SUVs as well, the amount of competitors for this new S-Class is greater than ever. You don't just have the 7 Series and the A8. You've got things from Bentley. You've got the Bentayga. You're against the Range Rover now. Because there are plenty of S-Class buyers who would have gone, yeah, no, but I quite like the seating position of the Range Rover, and they want something big. So all of a sudden you've got luxury SUVs that this thing's up against, but because the market loves these big cars with the huge ground clearances, I don't think the S-Class is going to be able to compete as well as it would have in previous years. I would love to be proved wrong. I'm going to watch the life of this new S-Class with great interest. But I think I'm right on this. We'll see. Now, one other sector of the industry that has been commanding a lot of respect, like how the S-Class commands a lot of respect, is the Chinese side of things. Chinese car makers, I believe, now occupy 10% of the UK market, which is astounding. Top Gear called it, but I didn't believe them. I don't think anyone believed them. It was just, we're all going to be driving Chinese cars in the next 20 years. But no, they would write about that. But interestingly, Chinese cars there's a good chance they'll be getting closer to British soil than ever before, because they might start building cars in the UK's JLR and Nissan plants because there's spare capacity. It's been well documented that this past year for the automotive industry in Britain has been really rough. We build a lot of things here, but the industry as a whole just seems to be suffering from quite a few goings on. But the Chinese marques are doing pretty okay in Britain. So while JLR and Nissan have loads of spare capacity because they're just not building as many cars, Chery and Dongfeng might be coming in and taking up that spare space. On the one hand, I think, yeah, that's excellent. But on the other hand, I would prefer the manufacturers who have plants set up here to have all systems going all the time, because I want them to have good business in this nation. It seems like they're not right now. I don't think they're going to move out, but they're not doing so great. So actually, it's pretty good that these Chinese marques are able to come in. They want to invest in the British market. So they're saying, yeah, we'll take up some of that spare space. However, I do also, before returning to the point of Chinese automakers taking the market by storm, I want to talk about the names of some of these brands. Now, not long ago, I thought that there was a clear marketing issue with Chinese brands because there are names like Yangwang or Dongfeng that I've never believed has translated very well to the British market. These are so far from the things that we name our cars. But but despite the fact that the name Dongfeng comes across in nowhere near the same way to British ears than Chinese ears, their cars are selling well. The biggest example is BYD, Build Your Dreams. Again, I imagine to the Chinese ear, that's quite a cool name. But I don't think Build Your Dreams is that cool of a name. As a Brit saying it, obviously the name's in English, but hearing that name, I think, especially with the names of their models too. You've got the Seal and Seal, I think the Seal 6 is their latest one. But, there's like seals and dolphin surfs and things. And again, to the home market, I understand why that works. But I never expected that name to sell in Britain. But here we are, which I'm quite surprised about, but at the same time, it does make total sense because it's shown at the end of the day, when people want cars to go from A to B, they're not really bothered. They just want to go from A to B in something that works and is cheap. And the Chinese EVs are all of that. They are cheap, they work, they're pretty good. They're very good, actually. So people can obviously so easily look past the names. But as someone who is so in love with the automotive industry as a whole, hearing a hypercar called the Yangguang U9 does still sound a bit funny to my ears because it's just not what I'm used to calling a car. Of course, the cars that I'm used to calling, these hypercars like Koenigsegg's and Bugattis. Chinese words are very different sounding, but it's really interesting that they've not needed a name rebrand. They've not even needed to call their cars something else to take off at an exponential rate. And I must say it's quite impressive. Just like the amounts, they're not just putting out these cars, they're putting out these cars that are quality, as I've said. So, yeah, it's quite astonishing to see. Now, Chery, Chery, you've seen their logos before. It's sort of like a V shape, but upside down. You've absolutely seen their stuff on the roads before. They are setting up new headquarters in Liverpool. And they've actually partnered with JLR. I never knew that JLR and Chery had partnered before, but here we are. They partnered in 2012 to build new JLR models in China. And yeah, they're the second biggest market for JLR products after the US, which is mad. It's quite cool then that, there's a crossover between the British stuff and Chinese stuff. We're clearly helping each other in that regard for the automotive space. But I also didn't realize just the extent to which the Chinese market love JLR, because we've known the Freelander is coming back, but it's going to be built as an EV, but it's going to be built in China for Chinese buyers. It's actually going to be likely the name of a whole lineup, which is insane. So with everything that's going on in the world politically right now, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the near future, China overtakes the US as being JLR's biggest market, which I never would have thought would happen, but here we are. I do like the older Freelanders. I think they're cool. Although I don't imagine that the new Freelanders are going to be anything like what we've seen before. I believe that it's going to share the name and nothing else. It's going to be like the new Ford Capri. The name's there, but it's not the same thing. Time will tell if that is a good or a bad move. I'm sure it is a great move because the Freelander name does carry a presence. People know what a Freelander is, and people know that it's entrenched into Land Rover history. So I'm very much looking forward to the name coming back, whatever the product is, no matter how different or similar it is to the older Freelanders. It's just cool that it's coming back. And I do hope that they are sold in the UK as well. Right now it seems like a bit of a grey area. People are reporting different things, but it seems as though it is certain, actually, that the new Freelander's primary market is going to be China. And I always would have thought that JLR would put Britain first because we see so many people romping around in Range Rovers and Defenders in this country. Rounding off though, I do think, well, to be honest, for a good long time, I was very adverse to Chinese cars in Europe and the UK, essentially because we build so many cars within this continent, and I never wanted to see that industry disappear. I want it to stay homegrown. But at the same time, with the way that the Chinese manufacturers are moving, creating genuinely excellent cars and buying marques like MG, and MG cars, they're designed in Britain, even though they're owned by a Chinese company, SIAC, yeah, even though they're owned by a Chinese group, they do so much of their legwork in Britain still. So to be honest, at this point, with the fact that we can build JLR cars over there, and they love them, and the fact that they're willing to take up spare capacity in factories where not enough cars being built, then excellent. Who doesn't benefit from this? Everyone involved with these sort of deals benefits, and it's great. So who knows? I mean, I wouldn't say expect me to be seen in a build your dreams dolphin surf anytime soon, because, well, I mean, like, realistically, like, when would that happen? But I'm curious to try these things now. I'm curious to delve into the Chinese market because they are helping out our market so much, and they're genuinely good. There's no reason to avoid them now. So anyway, yes, very China-focused episode today. Let's see where things go. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me I'm an idiot. Tell me that I am the Messiah. I will see you in the next MOTORYAP or my next video. I have no clue when the next one of these is going to be out, but I sure enjoy doing them. So I'm sure it'll be sooner rather than later. Take care.